Today, I'm going to show you how to paint anime in Ibispaintx. This content is mostly for beginners. But I sincerely apologize for any inconveniences or mistakes in this video. Now let's start. First, let's sketch and create the line art. I'll speed this up. I use a dip pen, hard brush for sketching and lining in anime. I also draw a guide for where to place shadows, which I will erase later. To color the skin, I first use the magic wand and lasso tool to select all parts of the face. The lasso tool is really helpful. Then, add a layer below the line art. When choosing the base color, I select a color that isn't too dark or too light, a somewhat dull color. Then remove selection area. Next, for the shadows, add another layer set to clipping, and change the blending mode to multiply. I use the lasso tool again to select the shadow guide I drew. It doesn't have to be perfect because I will erase them later. The shadow color can be similar to the base color or slightly darker. I apply darker shades in the deepest areas or the hard shadows. And more darker in the darkest part. Moving to the eyes, I add a layer above the skin layer. I shade the mascara with a slightly off-white color. Then, add another layer set to a clipping for coloring the iris. Use the lasso tool if you want. Set the current layer to alpha lock. I use either an airbrush, normal, triangle, or trapezoid to shade with darker colors at the bottom, depending on the reference. More darker in the lower part. And lighter color at the top, depending on your references. Below the iris layer, add another layer set to multiply. Choose a grayish color and shade about half of the eye. I blur the edges slightly and lower the opacity to avoid excessive blurring. Finally, I add a darker shade at the top. For the lips, you can observe how I do it. Add another layer and color them accordingly. Now for the hair, I used the magic wand and lasso tool to select. Make sure to include the inner line. Add a layer for the hair base color. Then, add another layer for the second hair color, set to a clipping. Use lasso tool for easy shading. I blend using an airbrush and an airbrush eraser for the extended parts. For hair shadows, I use the lasso tool again. Add a layer set to a clipping and set the blending mode to a multiply, choose a grayish color. And darken the darker parts. Below the hair, I add a layer for the accessory. Use a lasso tool to select all the parts. Now shade with base color. Above, add another layer set to the clipping and multiply. Use a darker gray color to shade darker areas with a hard brush. And softly shade edges with a low opacity airbrush. Oh, I forgot about that. Let me do magic. Ta-da! For clothes, add a layer above the hair layer and color with all the base color. For easy shading, move the current layer below the hair. Then add another layer set to the clipping and multiply. Use lasso tool. Shade with gray and applying darker colors to darker areas. Lower the opacity to softly shade the edges. Finally, go to the line art layer and erase the guidelines with a low opacity eraser to ensure the hard lines remain intact. For highlights, I add a layer above the line art, change the blending mode to add, and lower the opacity to around 60%. In here you can observe how I add highlights. Now, let me make a few adjustments. Thanks for watching until the end. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe.